Yeah. Well, it wasn't because then a
Did
reporter
he yell at
from
the reporter again?
he yelled at another reporter. A reporter from PBS, the one agency that like everyone in the country can agree is a great fucking agency because it's the public broadcasting system. You're basically yelling at Big Bird. A reporter from PBS asked him about ventilators that the American government currently has on hand but are not delivering to hospitals. She asked him why we're not, doing anything with those ventilators, and he yelled at the reporter from PBS about her question and told her that she was an idiot. She had to leave.
That's what happened after another reporter had like allegedly given him a softball question of what do you say to these people who are super anxious? And he said, "That's a terrible question. Get out of here." And like the reaction of the reporter's face is just hilarious. He's just like puts his hands up. He's like, "All right, fuck it. I'm just gonna leave."
I mean, at this point, he should just stop going to the press conferences. Anyways, we're not a political podcast, so.
It's very obvious where we
But
stand.
yeah, I just wanted to tell a story about he yelled at PBS, which is basically like yelling at Elmo. And who the fuck yells at Elmo? Um, but however, we're not PBS and not publicly funded and not a political podcast. So let's get back to talking
And
about
also,
anime.
50% of us might have the coronavirus.
Yeah,
Of us, I mean, of me and Nick. And
of
I
the
think
two of us here.
it's obvious who it is.
Yeah.
Um,
One
yeah.
of us will be coughing repeatedly and the other one will be laughing.
I will be laughing and coughing, to be fair.
It's true.
But anyways, yeah.
Although to be fair, as you get worse, you'll just sort of develop a cough that sounds like a laugh.
Anyways, this is episode 993 of ABC, where we're going to talk about the ending of Azoken, Somali, and the Toilet-Bound Hanaka-kun. I said those in the wrong order. Fuck.
You did. Because we start with Izoken, I believe,
Well,
yes?
I did say Azoken first, but we then go to
Oh, totally
Toilet-Bound.
about
Yeah,
Hanako-kun. And then
Somali's last.
Somali at the end. It's true.
But for Azoken, we only have one episode to talk about, and even then, it's about half an episode, really.
Yeah.
Where like our first half is or basically like the sound, the music for the anime that we've been creating this entire time is doesn't work with what we had envisioned. Basically, what oh my god, I already forgot their names. Subame and the little one, they were envisioning something a bit more like
Kanamori?
kind of more
No.
like
Yeah, Kanamori's the tall one.
yes,
I don't remember her name.
yeah. Oh my god, I feel so bad. What they envisioned was a little bit something a bit more upbeat, more action heavy, and they got something like very toned down and kind of somber.
Yeah.
So now, for the next 10 minutes, you have to figure out what are they going to do to make the anime fit because they can't get a new song in time because they've got literally a night left. And so our little one basically decides, okay, we're going to change up these scenes, move them around, and make the story a bit more sad to make it fit with the actual song itself. And we're also cutting out the entire dancing part because no part of this song fits the dancing. And then they go ahead and do it, and then we watch it. There's a scene in right before where they're off selling it at Comet A, where we see some more. We see the little one growing up a bit more, being a bit more open about dealing with crowds and stuff, and we even touch a bit more about why she's so anxious about it all.
Right. And we do see a little bit of their additional plans had to do with basically they were going to sell what they had and what worked with the song that they got delivered at their not Comiket thing.
Yes.
And then basically market it as eventually the full version will be released, but support us now, as like a show of solidarity and then see the rest of it online for free later on. And basically take a punt and say, here's what we have now. We're going to fix this and do it better and come back when we're fully ready.
Right.
So they delivered to Comiket, or not Comiket in this edition, basically what worked with the song that they currently had and planned to re-include the dancing scene further down the line when it worked with a hopefully better song or better soundtrack set to it.
Once again, this was brought to you by Kanamori. Part of it was Kanamori.
Yeah. Kanamori found a plan around their distribution because their current distribution center basically was not able to give them any additional time to work on it or very limited additional time. And she found a way around that with a new place that would create their DVDs, like the physical DVDs themselves,
Yeah.
she found a new way to basically buy them another 12 hours or so of working time.
Man, what a fucking baller. Conor Mori, I
Yeah.
think, was a standout in this show. But anyways, the last half is we actually watch what they ended up creating, and I still don't really understand it.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
What I got from that was okay. There were a lot of scenes that they reused,
Yes.
which I think was like they meant to do that. Like the I guess this is taking a step further back was the actual in real life animator or like directors decided to do this for the characters inside to show how like they're still using cost cutting measures and they're still amateurish.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is I think a great way to do it, even though it did confuse me a fucking ton.
Hmm.
But they're still high school kids, so it makes sense that their stuff doesn't make too much sense.
Right.
But the story was
Plus,
basically
in plot wise, they were having to basically cut together
yeah,
a sequence of scenes out of sequence in order to create a show that or
a
short
story,
short film, yeah, story that worked with the soundtrack that they had.
right? And it
So I can't
was
understand why it didn't make a huge amount of sense because it was in basically 24 hours create a new-ish storyboard from scratch or
yeah.
from what we have.
It also doesn't help that I didn't understand the whole thing about the bell towers and the mudslides and all that other garbage. I was so
Yeah.
confused about all
Well,
that.
okay. I don't understand the point of the bell towers. I understand conceptually that they were some sort of signal. I don't understand who they were signaling, but I understand that they were a signal.
Right. So
And I understand they had to fix them for some reason, and somehow that related to peace on Earth.
yes, like if the bells stopped ringing in the water, it meant like war or some shit. And if like the bells didn't ring up top, it also meant war or some other stuff. And
Yeah.
then the Atlanteans like just rise up and then just start fucking around. And then we follow to a Kappa and then a human, and they're like battling it out. And then they're like, "Hey, let's not fucking fight." And they try to like help each other out a little bit, like try to help, try to stop their side from shooting down the opponent.
Hmm.
And then they get shut down anyways.
Yep. But
And
they get shot down on like opposite sides of the
right, and then they just kind of give up.
underwater thing. Well, they fix the bells, and
Right,
then
they fix the bells, and then the same thing happens again, where they're trying to help the opponents like survive, and then
Yeah.
they actually get shot down, and then they give up and die, or they get caught.
Yeah,
Like they get
get caught.
imprisoned, and that's
Well,
the end.
do we see the captain get imprisoned or prisoner of war? We definitely see the human get prisoner of war.
They just walk outside of the little thingies,
Of their ship
their
thing,
ships,
UFO things.
and they're surrounded by the opposite force.
They both are okay.
Yes, I think they both are. Like right, because they keep doing the whole thing where like, it's mirrored between the cap and the human.
Oh, right. It must have been cutting back and forth between the two of them. And I wasn't paying attention. That makes sense.
So like, basically, our anime kind of just ends really sadly.
Yeah. And like their whole prisoner of war storyline was supposed to be they get prisoner of war and then they find out that they're basically like the same people with different skins, and you learn about like cohesion, which was their big thing.
Yeah,
It's like everybody comes together. But like
That's
we
being-
see a little bit of the whole we learn that the other side isn't so bad during like the first getting shot down thing before the bell fixing. But like it just wasn't so good on their whole story of like cohesion, everyone lives together in peace.
right, because they become prisoners.
Yeah.
Which that part, the theme gets muddled because of what they had to do. They had to cut everything up and then try to keep the theme kind of in line, but they weren't able to do so with the amount of time they had.
Mhm.
Which just goes to show you what sometimes you have this idea and then everything gets in the way in your execution, and then it kind of leads to a muddled product.
Right.
Because no one wants to make shit. It just sometimes happens. But anyway,
Or sometimes you get forced to do it.
yeah. Oh, yeah. And then you write in the credits, "Please help me."
Please save us. We're being abused. Yeah. Those dark times.
But anyways, yeah, that was Isoken. At the very end, the three girls watched their anime at home after a really long, basically all-nighter. or the little one just goes to sleep, and then the other two just leave, and then everyone's also watching it, and they like it. Everyone, I mean, all the people
All
who
the
ended up
people who
buying
bought
it.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they like it. I think some of their CD players break.
Yeah, we see that in like a depiction of their minds are blown with this
Right.
world. Their CD players explode, and we see like towers in the same way that they were depicted in the anime or in the short film. They explode out of these people's houses, and we see these towers in the sky the next day when the small one wakes up and she looks outside and she sees those towers, and it's sort of implied like they're now living in her world of the fantasy that she's created.
Right. And then we pull back all the way, and we find out that my sister, or my, I guess I don't know if, if I ever vocalized this, um, but like this, the world isn't really like our world. It's not Earth. It's like some weird like archipelago world.
Do we see that?
Yeah, we do. Like it's not. There's no South America, Asia, Japan, or anything like that. Like there's
I
somewhere.
must have been really not paying attention for that zoom out.
There's somewhere in like the North Hemisphere, and there's like a bunch of islands everywhere.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I must have just seen like it was going to do the camera pan out to the blue marble that is us,
Yeah.
and I was like, it's the world. Who cares?
Yeah. Like whatever. I'm just assuming it's there.
They're an island nation. Fuck it, it's Japan. Close enough. Whatever.
I could be remembering this wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be like this other weird like alternate universe world.
No, I'm totally willing to believe that that's what it was.
Which would make sense as to like why some things just are weird, like the flooded half city in the
Right.
episode before this one.
Uh-huh.
The fact that there's like metal blinds in these houses, because apparently I guess must get like super typhoons or some shit.
Yeah. The fact that a lot of the architecture to these buildings and the way they're designed is just a little bit odd.
Yeah.
There's a lot about this world that was just a little bit off, which I guess makes sense since I mean it doesn't fully make sense that just because they're like an archipelago world that everything would be a little bit weird, but it does explain why they're different than us for sure.
It lets you kind of like create your own reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the shit that I just made up, like that's all made up. That wasn't in the fucking show. Maybe they don't get super typhoons. Who the fuck knows?
Right. But it gives you the option to imagine that they do, because it's a world similar to ours. They were definitely still human. It's just not us.
So anyways,
but however, we now see the end of Izoken. Really thought there was going to be a 13th episode. Was sort of surprised when I went to watch it today and there was no extra.
I kept telling you there wasn't.
I know, but I kept forgetting. It just felt like there should have been one more episode there at the end.
What would
I just wanted one like epilogue episode. I don't know. I just wanted some like epilogue to the whole thing.
There would be an epilogue had this been the end of the manga, but it's still continuing, so.
Yeah.
At least we don't get go read the manga ending. Smalley, please don't tell about Hanukkah. You have the choice of continuing to read if you want.
It could be worse. It could be go buy our OVA. Fucking still upset about that. We're not going to provide you with an ending. You have to pay extra for the ending. Thanks. You're the best.
Shout out to Oresuki.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. I was wondering what. I was hoping that was the name. But anyways, that was Izoken. How'd you like it, Nick?
Let's see. Visually, it's very bizarre. It waffles between being cartoony and then sort of looking very like flat almost is the best way I can describe it. Like a lot of detail can get lost sometimes, so it's very weird in a visual perspective. But however, like we discussed earlier, it's set in a world that's just sort of a little bit off kilter.
There's just a lot of off things about the world and everything. And all the little offs just make everything kind of work for some reason.
Right.
It feels off.
And it is very much a show built around the concept of like kookiness.
Yeah, it's just a little weird.
Like all of our characters are just a little weird, and their premise is just a little weird most of the time. Like everything is just a little weird. So
like the school's also a little weird. There's like a security club. There's basically a club whose sole purpose is to eat ramen with rice. there's a
For a
fucking
club that showed up in 2 seeds, you really like that Carbohydrates Appreciation
yeah.
Club.
There's also a fucking office in the pool.
There's yeah, the teacher's office in a pool. We had the whatever the fuck they were club that got raided by the security team because they were breaking their school rules. I mean, everything was a little bit bizarre. Um,
But everything still works. It was still cohesive.
yeah, but it is certainly something that there were moments that the art style sort of took me out of it because it
Okay.
gets very flat and basic at times. Not basic in the way of pumpkin spice, but more basic in the way of like there's just not a lot of detail sometimes, or not nearly as much detail as I would expect. Um, it's not an across the board criticism, but it is something I noticed, and it's something that isn't usually a problem, so it is worth mentioning. Um,
In a similar vein, one of my issues, as much as I like the theme that they use and everything's very fantastical, I had the same issue with that as I did with Sarazanmai, where they just
mhm.
kept overusing it, like over and over. It showed up in every fucking episode,
Yeah,
and you knew when it'd show up, and I just wanted them to kind of play around with the music, do something different.
right.
Just choose a different one. Make this song special. Don't just feed it to me every fucking episode.
No, I definitely understand what you're saying. It was very much this was the song they used whenever we were imagining
Yeah,
something or creating something, and we were imagining or creating something a lot.
it was essentially B-roll music.
It basically was, you're correct. But the problem was that they were using it in like, you know,
The moments of heightened emotion.
yeah, and moments where you really wanted to pay attention. Like it wasn't B-roll film that we were being showed when we were basically getting B-roll music.
Yeah. I
Um,
know there's B-roll because it was used a lot. I still really like the theme. I think it's like it just captures what it means to like be imaginative somehow. At least that's what it did it for me. It's what made me like really kind of tune into the trailer and like really have high hopes for it. Was the music and then like the way it looked.
I would certainly say it was more the way it looked than it was the music to me. The music was certainly good, I will
Mm-hmm.
say, but it was more the way it looked. Something about the art style and especially the style of the world. And I
Yeah.
think that was one of the things they did the best was
Oh, just the
the
world.
world building, both in terms of the world that they created, that the characters lived in, and the worlds that the girls were creating. They were just interesting places. Like we talked about the fact that the world is just a little bit off kilter. I liked a lot of things about it.
Yeah, like as much as we talked about the weird flooded city, like it was still fucking cool.
Yeah,
Like I'd like to
and
explore that place.
oh, no doubt. And one of the things I keep going back to was something in like the first or second episode where they go to the laundromat and there was an air conditioner like in the top one third of
Oh
the
right.
doorway. And it's such a bizarre thing, but for some reason, like in my head, it's just something I keep thinking back to. Is like
That's fucking weird, but all
it's
right.
weird, but I liked it. Like it was something about it was just interesting that it was there. It seemed so like nonsensical, like nobody would ever do that because it's such a bad place to put an air conditioning. At the same time, like fuck it, there's just one there. Who cares?
I feel like they retcon the building, like they kind of moved shit around, trying to make it, trying to force it into a laundromat.
If we had the ramen plate to table because everything was built on a slope.
Oh my
I mean,
god, right.
there was a lot of minor details to these places that they didn't need. Like the tables in that ramen place didn't have to be tilted. They were already serving fruit ramen. That place was already slightly weird. They just chose to make it slightly weirder and gave it sloped tables. So it was a very imaginative, creative show, and I liked a lot of it. I wish that Kanamori was a bigger character, played more of a role, had more screen time. Pick your favorite complaint among those three. I just wanted more Kanamori. I liked her character. I liked what she did.
I feel like she got
Everything.
about like of the three girls. I feel like Tsubame got the least airtime, and then the other two got like the most.
Do you feel like Tsubame got less than Kanamori?
Yeah, I don't know if it's because of the last episodes where Kanamori did in fact get more than Tsubame, and I'm just
Hmm.
kind of like, uh, uh, um, impacted by those last three, but I feel like she did for the most part. I feel like Subama definitely got like the short end of the stick. But not that I care, because I did like Kanamori a lot more. I liked her basically being a fucking goon and a gangster basically the entire time, keeping
Right.
everything running. But yeah, by far
It was
Kanamori.
very much a thing of Tsubame and the short one would sort of do a lot of things together. And while like the short one would lead the pack, it was the two of them a lot of the times like imagining things together while Kanamori followed, if
Yeah.
she was coming at all.
During those imaginative moments, which we got a lot more of earlier, it is definitely those two, and then Kanamori in the background, just giving side chatter.
Hmm. Um,
Right, who's your favorite character was Kanamori then, right?
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, same with me. She's fucking great. I fucking loved her. Who's your favorite
Although
side
some of the
character?
side characters were pretty good. I don't know. I was
Yes,
just thinking of that because in
definitely at
terms
the
of
end.
like the
It
bigger side characters, we have the art club kids.
Yes, we have the art club kids.
We have
The sound
the
club
teacher,
girl, the
the
teacher,
sound club girl.
the student
Uh,
council.
yeah, the secretary I think is the one who always shows up or showed
Yes,
up most frequently.
the ramen guy.
The wrong. Yep.
Oh, the robot club.
No, good point.
So of all those we just listed out, who would be your favorite?
I really like the student council secretary or whatever she was.
She was pretty good.
She was a character who was created to be sort of antagonistic and at the same time wanted to let them go almost in that interaction where they first decide on the whole story with the bell towers and the wind-based rotor system that they had going on. She's a very interesting character. She's a very complex character, and I really liked her.
Okay, more complex than like a side character usually is.
Yeah.
I'd go with the opposite direction. Mine was the teacher, mostly because he was just a goof and funny. Like every scene he was in, I just laughed and I was like, okay, cool, you're my favorite character now. Just you do you, old man. Just play video games. In that,
I mean, he really only had one funny scene, in my
in the,
opinion.
the video game scene.
Yeah, the video game scene. Because
But
other scenes was he would just show up and scratch his beard and be like, "Huh, wish I could be a club supervisor."
peace out.
And like, and there were like three of those scenes in like three consecutive episodes where he would just show up and like say out loud like, "Oh, I wish I could do this," and then they would let him do it. The funniest scene was obviously the video game one. That was a really good scene. I think there was a second one, or there's another scene with him
There's
in the episode before that.
two video game scenes. One where he's playing in the car, and then one where Kanamori's talking about how the student council and the faculty are idiots in a meeting with the student council and the faculty. And
Right,
he's under the table playing a Game Boy
right. That's what it
with a
is.
joystick for some reason.
Yeah. Um, and he was definitely a funny character. He just didn't have a lot of, you know, solid impact moments. He had ones at the end,
Yes, I feel like the one
which I
at the end
think
was
was the
very
biggest.
important. Yeah, he kind of just comes in and
Yeah.
steals at the end, just because
Mhm.
he's playing the wise old man character.
Right.
Which basically is, but his wisdom is just fucking let her do whatever, guy.
Right.
That's what
Yeah.
it was.
Pretty much. Let her go and see what she can do.
Which is very in character from what we've seen. Just let him do whatever.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, I would say the student council girl.
Okay, she's
She also had, God, the shade in that meeting that she threw was amazing.
pretty good.
Because right after that moment of Kanamori calling the teachers idiots, she looks at the president and she's like, "You'd make a good teacher, president." Fucking top tier shade.
uh, would you recommend the show?
I think I would.
Like a general recommendation or targeted recommendation?
Um, hmm.
I would go with more general. I feel like
I don't know if I would quite say fully general. I think I'm thinking when you say general, like I would recommend it to anybody regardless of interest in anime.
oh
So I don't
all
know
right.
if I would
So
say
I guess
fully
there's
I
three
would
tiers
start
then.
somebody with this.
I guess there's three tiers then. Like recommend to someone who hasn't watched it, recommend to people who like are watching anime, and then
Uh-huh.
like The target is more for like the more niche groups who are like looking for something specific.
Yeah.
And there's no recommendation, which I mean that's obvious. No recommendation.
Yeah.
And that
That's
is
why I
just
was kind of struggling.
yeah.
I think I would recommend it to people who have watched anime.
Okay. And I wouldn't say that people like just be. And this isn't like tiered as in one is better than the other. They're just kind of like
Yeah, no.
yeah, like there's some shows that I fucking love, which God forbid I would not show anybody who hasn't like watched anime before.
Right, yeah, no.
Um,
Monster Musume, absolutely. Yeah, no.
would you fuck a centaur?
Maybe they would like that.
Um, for sure, I would recommend to people who are watching anime. I feel like they would really like it.
Hmm.
Maybe even to the people who haven't watched either, like who are just like into animation in general. But like at that point, you might it's getting even like it's more um, um, unlikely that they haven't been exposed to anime.
Right.
Maybe someone who's really
That's a fairly small crowd of
yeah, like
people who are
animators is,
specifically interested in the creation of animation.
or maybe just the creation of any sort of art in general. Because I assume, well, not that. I feel like
Mm,
a lot of like the issues that they have could be translated over to like just creativeness in general, especially when you get into like the professional side of things.
I mean, it certainly is something that I'm sure a lot of people who have to deal with, contracts and contractors and stuff like that. I'm sure it's problems that a lot of people in those sorts of fields have experienced. But at the same time, I don't know if I would say like somebody who is interested in the medium of like painting. I don't know if they necessarily would enjoy this
Okay.
because like I don't know. I don't think I would love to watch an anime about like the whole in-depth process of doing research and getting grants and all of that stuff. Like,
That would make a good shonen anime. Just think about it. There's a tournament arc to get the grant.
I mean, you're not wrong. It would make a decent shonen anime. And then you get to experience heartbreak as your first paper gets rejected, and then you bounce back and get published in Nature. Yeah, it would make a good shonen anime. You're not
The
wrong.
very first episode is the main character getting berated about his awful paper.
Yeah. Pretty sure I could write that. Yeah.
Or maybe creatives in general. Or someone aspiring to be a creative.
Hmm.
I feel like they would like it, even if they weren't exposed to anime. Feel like
Maybe so.
there are some people that would like this that haven't been exposed. But I
Uh-huh.
guess that's the case with anything, though.
It's certainly a situation of like, I don't know just because somebody's imaginative they would definitely enjoy this, but I think it is a show that people who are imaginative may respond to.
Yeah, they might.
Like the imaginative moments early in the show are something that I think a lot of people who have very active imaginations, who do those sorts of exercises that they're talking about of creating these worlds and these objects can relate to.
There we go. That's the word. Relate to. Yeah. But anyways, for sure, I'd recommend to anyone who has watched anime. This is fucking great.
It is an exceptional show. I very much enjoyed it.
And so on to our second show.
Yeah.
Toilet Bound? Yeah, it was Toilet Bound.
Yes.
Toilet,
Live on Hanako-kun and the 2 episodes that we have.
Toilet Bound Hanako-kun. Do you want to take it away, Nick?
Sure.
All right, let's go. Double
So
time.
we have the part 2 of the episode we left with last time,
The hell-
as we are in the Hall of Mirrors.
I was going to say
and
the Hell
we're-
of Mirrors.
The hell, I forget what they call it. The Hall or
I
the
think
Hell.
it's the Hall
They
of
call
Mirrors.
both. But we are standing at the feet of our dead bird
Oh,
as Tsukasa. Is that what his name is?
Are you talking about Dark Hanako?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Tsukasa. The other one's Mitsuba.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Mitsuba's the ghost, and I'm
Amane.
Amane.
Aname?
Amane is.
Oh my god, fuck. Amane.
I don't remember. It's definitely A-M, some vowel, N-E, and I don't remember
See,
what that vowel
I
is.
thought it was Aname. It's Amane, but now I'm like flipping the N's and the M's. Oh my god, I think I'm dyslexic.
No, it's definitely an M. I know that.
Okay, Amane. It's Amane.
Definitely an M. Okay. Amane is Hanako. But Tsukasa rips out the heart of our dead bird, who used to be the miracle, and basically force feeds it to Mitsuba off screen.
Oh,
As
thank God.
Mitsuba passes out, as does Nene. So we don't actually see what happens. In the meantime, our human exorcist, Ko, as well as Hanako, break into the Hall of Mirrors after Nene, and they basically come up to the scene of Nene passed out on the ground somewhere somewhat far away from our mirror hell, and we see Mitsuba has sort of mutated himself slightly and now has
Part.
weird bird
Yeah.
skeleton arms coming out of his back.
He's evolved because he
Yeah,
ate a heart.
because he ate, yes, a school wonder's heart.
Yes, and now he's technically the third wonder.
Yeah. And after having a little bit of a freak out, was he doesn't really like his arms, and they go a little bit hog wild and tear the place up for a
Because they're
moment.
not cute, Nick.
Yeah, everything has to be cute to this boy. He ends up basically more or less deciding that this is what he wants. He wants to become the third wonder of the school, and he fully evolves into his ultimate form of weird eye on his chest covered in mouths wonder. In the background of this, Ko has now seen Mitsuba in this hall of mirrors and basically goes to reconnect with his friend, only to find out that Mitsuba doesn't remember him.
Yes, because
Ko is somewhat broken up about this because friends with Mitsuba before he was killed by
right.
Tsukasa. Um, and so Ko understandably is upset, and they end up leaving as Mitsuba has evolved, and Tsukasa takes him away back to his hideout in the basement in the broadcast room.
Right, but before that, Ko gives Mitsuba the photo book.
Oh, okay,
Yes,
yeah.
that's an important piece. And I think Tsukasa asks Mitsuba to kill them or do something to them, and like he pretends to like attack them, and then gives a wink to Nene.
Mm-hmm.
That
I mean,
becomes
Mitsuba is definitely a character who does not.
is not evil.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've already seen that he cares more about his cuteness than anything, so he
Yep.
doesn't want to become like evil and kill people because that's not very cute of him.
Yes, and the photo book and the wink don't pay off because the show ends. So
Yes.
I assume that pays off later in the manga.
We see instead a flashback in the last episode to Ko in the bathroom after they escape the Hall of Mirrors, as he tells them basically who Mitsuba is to him.
Yep.
And that's basically the last we see of Mitsuba until the very end of this, and even then, it's not a very important scene of
It's
Mitsuba,
I'm pretty sure just a joke.
mostly.
Yeah.
So instead, our final episode is concerned with Nene and the circumstances of our first episode,
Yep. Good little
where all the
bookend.
way back, yeah, all the way back in the beginning of this series, Nene, in her quest to get a boyfriend, ate a scale of a mermaid and ended up being cursed by a mermaid. And so when the mermaid came to basically eat her and become one with her, Hanako showed up and killed the mermaid. So now the people, the fish of the mermaid kingdom, or the
The
mermaid's kingdom,
citizens.
yeah, citizens, I guess, they've come to basically find their new queen. And because Nene has eaten the flesh of the mermaid, she is the flesh of their flesh, and therefore must now drink of the blood. It's very Jesus-y, basically, is what I'm getting at.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, the
Yeah,
resurrection of the princess. Makes
yeah.
sense. Where's Lazarus?
Eat of my flesh and drink of my blood, flesh of my flesh. Yeah, we need a Judas out here to kill some people off, crucifixions and all that. But anyways, biblical metaphors aside, that I don't think they were actually going for. The fish people basically find Nene, and in a very ominous scene, we have the puffer fish as he stares at them creepily, basically saying, "Oh, my princess, I've come for you." And the next day, after being harassed or messed with by Hanako during
Teased.
her class, teased, uh, where she talks to Hanako because she's an idiot and talks out loud during class, despite the fact that everybody could hear her.
She learns. She learns, and then
She
starts writing
learns.
it
She
down.
does true. She starts writing it down in her book instead. Hanako dresses up her hair like a Christmas tree and then bails. She gets in trouble slightly, and after this event, goes outside and ends up running into or is found by the citizens of the Mermaid Kingdom.
Fish, fish, fish,
As
fish,
they
fish.
tell her the good news, you are our princess to be. They promise her all sorts of a wonderful life with men to serve
Yeah.
her, and
Most importantly, a harem of men.
yeah, a harem of princes.
Princes.
And all she has to do is drink the lifeblood of the mermaid and truly become a mermaid.
Truly become the princess mermaid.
Yes. Nene doesn't really know what she wants to do at the moment. She can't decide yet, so they give her a day to think about it. And she basically goes off to try and decide what should I do with Hanako, because as she says, she's in love with a ghost. She does admit to it, which I thought was huge steps for this character.
Clap, 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 clap. But
Yeah.
yeah, she goes off and just talks to everyone else and says, "Hey, fix my problem for me."
Yeah. Basically, she goes off trying to ask people, give me a reason to stay. And everybody looks at her and goes, you kind of have to decide for yourself, girl.
The fox is lazy, like, it is up to you. Bye. And then, and then the teacher's like, I'm not part of this. Bye. Choose
I'm
yourself.
not part of this. You can choose for yourself, but holy fuck, is this funny. And her friend is basically saying, you want to break ties with somebody you're in love with. I mean, you should decide for yourself. And in the end, she does actually decide, I want to stay with Hanako. I want to find out more about him, and maybe someday we can actually become friends. And not just, master and cleaning lady.
Yes, but unfortunately, those harem of men are really enticing.
Yeah. And then they break out the photos, and she's like, I'm not saying I'm going to come with you, but I'll certainly look at some photos of men. And then they unroll the scrolls, and it's revealed that their harem of men is a harem of male fishes. And it's slightly less interesting to Nene after that. And right as she turns to basically say, I'm done with you, I'm not coming with you, she is kidnapped and dragged into the underwater world, where she learns that the fish don't actually want her, they want her fish form to be the princess of the Mermaid Kingdom. But she's immediately distracted by the premise of, but if you're down here, you'll be popular. Top of the food chain, or the social pyramid. And she is temporarily blinded by, I can be popular.
I love how much of a mess she is.
And in keeping with how much of a mess she is, the opportunity to become popular is basically enough to sway her, but out of the top of this fishy world that is still connected to the real world, a little goldfish scoop comes diving down into the water as Hanako has come to save his servant from the fish people. As he basically says, this is my property, don't touch this, it belongs to me.
Right, which brings up a good point, at least one point that I found. Hanako is kind of, manipulative-ish?
Uh-huh.
He's not the best boyfriend.
No, absolutely not.
No.
It definitely is not a healthy relationship.
It's not a completely healthy relationship yet. Let's hope it turns to a healthy one.
It's a strong hope. But we do see Hanako open himself up slightly as he tells her a little bit. He admits that Tsukasa was his brother, and he killed his brother.
Yeah, and then he killed her. Him.
Yeah, him. So we know that Tsukasa is his little brother and that he did kill his little brother.
Yes, but we don't know why, and Hanako says, you'll find out why some other day.
Just stick with me, yeah. And they make a pinky promise about it.
Yep.
And then we have the meanwhile of what's going on in the broadcast room. The rumors. As we see Tsukasa sending out a rumor about if you... I don't remember fully what the if you do something part of the rumor was. But basically you would meet the 7 wonders of the Occident. Which is to say the 7 wonders of the Western world. Such as the werewolf, Frankenstein, Bloody Mary, Dracula, I believe.
Well, it was just Mary.
It was just Mary, but I'm pretty sure it's implied to be Bloody Mary.
Could be Typhoid
Who's Bloody Mary supposed to be?
Typhoid Mary?
It could be Typhoid Mary. I've always assumed, well, not assumed. I assume now that Bloody Mary is supposed to be Elizabeth Bathory.
Right, the lady who
bathed in blood.
Plays that in Young Woman's Blood.
Yeah. But her name was Elizabeth, not Mary. And I don't think Mary is short for Elizabeth, generally speaking.
I don't believe so. I also thought Bloody Mary was maybe a woman who died of consumption.
That might be more possible, yeah.
Oh, Gus, I've caught the consumption.
You have caught the consumption, basically.
That was a real cough.
I mean, if we were back in, 1850s time,
Yes. If this was 1850s, I would be coughing up blood a lot more
yeah,
than I am right now.
we would take you to the doctor and they would diagnose you with blood ghosts.
They diagnosed me with vampirism. Oh, no,
We're not.
that's after I die.
Yeah, we're also not. We don't live in Serbia, so they probably wouldn't diagnose you with vampirism here in America.
Depends on what era. If this was like post 19 or 1890s, I think they may have.
Maybe.
I think that's around the time where like there was like this weird. It's not like the olden Serbian type of vampirism. It's like the more modern version that we know today.
Yeah.
Anyways,
But however, comma,
vampirism aside,
back in
also
the
sickness aside.
broadcast room with Tsukasa trying to broadcast his new rumor of the seven wonders of the Western world coming. The green-haired lady shuts that shit down, and Tsukasa goes back to creepily painting on the walls
With the
his
blood
weird,
of ghosts.
fucked up, yeah, the blood of the bird person.
Oh, I thought.
His weird, fucked up thing.
Jeez,
I
guess
don't know fully what it is. It was some sort of blackness stuff, and it felt like it was the blood of, and the most recent thing I'd seen die was the bird person.
Okay. That's fine. We also see the one annoying kid who's just still there.
Yeah,
And then we see the other annoying kid who's up on the ledge. Mitsuba.
Mitsuba. As Mitsuba basically says, "Is it okay for me to be here?" And our original annoying kid looks at him and basically says, "Dog, you have to decide that for yourself."
Mirroring what just happened. Writing. Um, and this basically confirms my suspicion that this story is about two girls' harems fighting each other.
That's implying that Nene has a harem.
Ko and Hanako.
Are they a harem though?
It's the start of a harem. If more boys don't get out of their harem, I'm gonna be upset. Because it's gotta be green-haired girl and her posse of boys versus Nene and her posse of boys.
That's all that you want is just two posses of men fighting each other.
Right, because right now we've got the two ghosts and the twin brothers. We've got Tsukasa and then we've got Amane. And then we've got exorcist type kids. We've got Ko and then we've got the annoying kid. Now we need another wonder. And we still
need another wonder to join
the Nene's group.
Nene's posse?
Yes, because we've got four that we don't know of. And then the third wonder, Mitsuba, has joined up temporarily with the green-haired girl.
Tsukasa and the green-haired girl.
Yeah, what might happen is Mitsuba moves over to the good guys, because I'm pretty sure that's going to end up happening, and then they get another wonder, and then making it, a fully formed harem v harem.
What is this turning into? The Shaolin showdown of boys at this high school?
I was thinking of Captain America Civil War.
Ah, okay. I just wanted to make the Shaolin showdown reference because it was there.
Did they have like the opposite Shaolin people? Because I remember the four. It was shorter Krillin.
Yeah.
Texan.
Yep.
Brazilian. Girl.
Girl. Japanese girl.
Was she Japanese? Did she use shuriken?
I think so.
Oh, she used the fire shuriken.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. The Japanese girl. Was there like a crew that was basically like their mirror? I don't remember.
Well, I remember that at one point, roughly around the time I stopped watching Shaolin Showdown, that like not Krillin, when he went through like some sort of weird mystical Shaolin Showdown gate thing, his like forehead, dots turned sideways and he became like anti-Krillin.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
So maybe there was like the bad version of them all. Like they split them off, like they were, bipolar, or not bipolar disorder, but dissociative identity disorders. So they had the good side and the bad side sort of thing. I mean, maybe that became a plot. It definitely sounds like it could have been a plot.
I know there's a bad team because the Brazilian kid, I think his name was Raimundo, joins them for a bit. And then he rejoins the good guys. And then becomes their leader. And then I think Ung was his name, was the water kid, was short Krillin. He throws a hissy fit because he wanted to be the leader. That's the only plot point I remember.
And you're not saying his name is Ong because he sort of resembles Aang from the Avatar,
no,
right?
I think it might actually be Ung.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I Actually, now I'm curious. I don't want to sound racist.
The history of Shaolin Showdown and whether or not that kid was actually named Dong and that other kid was actually Brazilian.
He was Brazilian.
Are you certain?
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure his
Okay.
name was Raimundo, and he was Brazilian.
I mean, I'm certainly willing to believe you.
Omi. His name was Omi, not Ong. Omi, Kimiko, Raimundo, and Clay.
Clay was the Texan kid.
Yes.
You can tell because his name is not ethnic in any way, shape, or
Nope.
form.
Clay. Where are you from? So the South. What's your power? I use a gun. I'm pretty sure he had a revolver.
Oh my god, that would have. I do not remember that. That's amazing if that's true.
Wait.
But regardless, we're not a Shaolin Showdown podcast. We're an
Yes.
anime podcast.
Yes. Would you recommend the Toy Hana?
Toilet Bound Hanako-kun? Um,
Oh, you're
it's
thinking
an
about this?
interesting ask. Yeah. Visually, it's an amazing show.
Oh,
I
it's
love
so
the
fucking
art style.
pretty.
It is exceptional. And there are decisions in it and like moments that I think are really good. One of the ones I specifically was going to mention because it was in this episode is uh, one of the few moments that we see Hanako truly look like a ghost. We see his see-throughness
Oh yeah,
basically.
yeah. At the very end.
Is yeah, and we see it in moments being
Oh.
vulnerable. And while it's a little bit on the nose of he's being vulnerable and therefore he's see-through, I mean, as a decision, I do like it.
Yeah, like it's on the nose, but it works to
Yeah.
further your point.
Exactly.
It shows clear direction.
Yeah, exactly. And there are choices that we've brought them up before in the design and the use of like the cut-in panels that they have to show certain things.
I just love it so much. It's just a very. It basically gives it kind of a animated manga sort of style.
Yeah. I was gonna say storybook feel.
Storybook. Yes, that might be a better way to put it.
But it is a visually amazing show. And plot-wise, I don't have anything against the plot,
I don't either.
which is why it's interesting that I'm struggling to say I would fully and wholeheartedly recommend it. Because while it is a interesting show, it is not a gripping show in my opinion. Because like across all of it, across all of the episodes, holistically, it wasn't a show that like
It didn't leave you wanting more. Is that what you're trying to?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It was a show with ups and downs and character struggle, and at the end of it all, like there was never an episode like even between cliffhangers. I never wanted to immediately dive into the next episode, despite the fact that it didn't exist, which was a feeling that I talked about before with Babylon before it got to shit, and I talked about it before. I think with Banana Fish, and there's been a couple other shows of like you get to the end of the episode and you just want there to be one more episode to learn just a little bit more about like the plot that's going on right
The
now.
plot or the characters.
Yeah. And like with Hanako, I just never really had that feeling. Like I was
Okay.
always just like the episode would end and I'd be like, okay, I can wait another week for an episode, no problem.
Okay, so it was good but not amazing.
Yeah. So I would say it is a good show, and I certainly wouldn't not recommend it to people. And I can't even say that I would recommend it to specific like people who like a specific niche. I just don't know that I would wholeheartedly recommend it.
Okay.
It's a show that largely I would say was good, not great.
What niche
my
would
opinion.
you recommend it to if you had to? Because I'm struggling with that because I don't really know. I feel like this show might be targeted more towards women
I think so too.
because it kind of reminded me of Fruits Basket, which is a shoujo. Like, I feel like there's a lot of shoujo elements in this show too.
Yeah.
So if you like shoujo, I think you might like this show. But I would give it a general recommendation to like anime fans. I thought it was really good. I really liked it. You are right about the gripping part. It didn't really grab me. Like I wasn't left wanting more, but I was left trying to figure out what was going on and like trying to predict what was going on with the different characters. It was engaging.
Right. It definitely had moments of. It was a comedy show more than anything, I would say, in terms of
yeah.
what niche I would recommend it to. So I guess artistic comedy, almost.
Yeah, like artsy comedy. I don't know. Cause yeah, it was moments of it were really fucking funny. Like every single moment that Nene is on screen, just trying to be popular or trying to be a popular person is just so
Mm,
fucking funny because she always fails.
yeah,
Like she's just a mess, and that's she's just so lovable because of it.
yeah. And even like the background characters of Nene's best friend, Aoi. At the
Alice,
very end in the last episode,
yeah.
we have a guy show up to confess his love to Aoi, and she gives him a rating of 5 out of 100. And the dude's happy about it. And, like, it's just, I mean, it's a comedy scene that doesn't need to be there. Like, it's a bit that doesn't need to exist, but they just throw it in there anyways.
Or like little Yosei sans, just
Yeah,
goofing off in the fucking corner. Like one of them just combing her hair in this episode. There's a lot of like little moments of like, there's little moments of jokes that aren't uh, pointed out for the viewer,
uh-huh.
and like they're just fun to kind of look for. But yeah, I'd still give it a general recommendation to anime fans. That's my distillation of my viewpoint.
Uh-huh. I mean, it is very much like, it's something that I struggle to say that I'm not recommending it to people because it is a good show and I did
Okay.
like
Yeah.
it. I don't know. There's just something about it.
Okay.
I can't put it into words. The feeling I have inside of me that's preventing me from saying I would recommend it, but there's just something and I can't put it into words, but I know it exists.
Okay. Anyways, I guess that's a recommendation for me. And then for Nick, it's not a recommendation.
Right.
He's not telling you not to watch it, but he's not telling
Yeah.
you, watch it now.
I'm just leaving it as sort of an empty space on the recommend don't recommend chart.
I,
And just leaving the box blank and moving on.
I would give it 4 daikon radishes out of 5. The whole by the way, the whole fucking thing about her legs. They keep making fun of her for them, even in this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, they fucking hate this girl's legs. It's the funniest fucking thing ever.
I don't remember what the like start to it was and why they're comparing her to Daikon radishes, but they just went ham on that poor girl's legs the
They
whole
roast
series.
This whole series roasts her about her legs, and
Yeah.
they don't like let up.
They roast her about her legs in the exact same way over and over.
At some point, it's got to get to you.
It gets to her all the time.
Yep.
Every single time it gets to her.
Um.
I would also say 4 Daikon radishes out of 5.
Okay. But yeah, this show. One thing I can't not put into words, but express enough is the art style. It's so fucking pretty.
In the words of our favorite main character, 4 Daikon knee socks radishes out of 5.
What thing has 5 legs, Nick?
Demons?
I could see a demon having 5 legs. Yeah. All right. Well, that was Twilight Bound Hanako-kun. Its ending was basically go read the fucking manga, bitches.
It really was.
It was at least enough of an ending because, like we got there was no cliffhanger to fucking screw us in our mouth, right?
Right.
At least we ended at a good moment.
Mm-hmm.
And
It was very much, it was an ending that left open the possibility of a season 2, and at the same time was sort of saying, if we're not going to get a season 2,
you can quickly pick
go
up the
read the
manga.
manga.
Yeah, you can quickly pick
Yeah.
the manga because this is basically the end of a chapter, the end of a volume, so you won't be confused on the next one.
But it is certainly a open ending.
Yes, and I believe at this point it's still not officially translated.
I don't believe so.
Let's see. Oh, guess what? You can fucking buy it now on hatchetbookgroup.com.
How many volumes are out in English?
It's still trying to load. It says official English, but it's telling me to pay in yen.
Oh, that sounds sketchy.
Alright, so it's electronic book. Yen press. Okay. It's because they're not telling me to pay in yen. They're telling me it's yen press.
Oh.
So currently, only the first book is out on paperback.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well, sale started the end of January, and it's an electronic book. for most devices. Oh
All
shit!
right.
I'm not fucking start picking this up. I've
So
got
it sounds like there will be more paperbacks coming in the next few months.
yes. Currently, the third volume is on sale. May 26th.
All right. There you go. So it is getting an official release in English. Sounds like it only started a couple months ago, and it is
Physical
continuing through
copies
at
only
least the
started a
third
month.
volume.
Physical copies only started a month ago.
Yeah, physical copies only started a month ago. You can
Cur-
buy the ebook version of how many volumes of the ebook do they have out?
I'm checking currently. And also for Izoken, I don't think that has an official translation either.
I would be somewhat surprised if that had an official translation.
5 volumes.
All right, 5 volumes of English ebook and almost a couple months away from 3 volumes of the hardcover.
Uh,
So if you want to
Physical
pick it up,
copy, not hardcover.
physical copy, not hardcover. You're right. But if you want to pick it up, I would be sort of surprised if the third volume was enough to pick up where the manga left off, or where the anime left off. But I'm sure with the fourth and fifth one as an ebook, you could probably get
Yeah.
at least one volume through.
Catch up a little bit. Yep.
So there you go. If you enjoyed this, support your official translations.
And up next, our final show of the season, Somali and the Forest Guardian.
Yep.
Forest Spirit. Fuck, I fucked it up again.
Yeah, you
Whatever.
did.
That's Somali. That's what we call it.
Yeah.
So these
As we
ahead.
saw the golem go beast mode last time, and now we begin this with never actually seeing him go beast mode, and I was somewhat upset about that.
He kind of goes beast mode. Well,
I
not
mean,
super beast mode.
kind of. We see him like,
He like flails some bodies around.
yeah, we see him Hulk jump around and throw some people against walls, but like we never really see him go all out. It feels like.
Because I don't think they want the golem to kill anyone. And even then, like, Mishibara, the taller Oni, like, even tells Golem, like, hey, don't do this in front of your kid. And,
Yeah.
and I think even within, like, the manga itself, they didn't want the Golem to kill anyone. So he just kind of hits people a little bit and they kind of get knocked down. That's it. Like, that's all he does.
Uh-huh.
But he at least turns into a scary motherfucker.
He definitely
At the very
does.
least.
And he releases an awesome fire strike that hits nobody. Which is perhaps the most disappointing part of that.
Well, he says target acquired because, like, once again, he's not trying to hit anyone. He's trying to, like, just protect Somali.
Right. But he launches a whole bunch of fireballs into the sky, and then they just sort of
They hit the
slam into the walls and
caves.
crap.
Yeah. I thought that's what he was trying to do. Deep down, I did want that motherfucker to hit them. Like, I just wanted those fucking little beasties to go up in flames.
Yeah.
But that's because I'm a terrible person.
Or maybe that's because they were trying to eat Somali.
Yeah, they're trying to eat Somali.
They got what they deserved.
But eventually, pretty predictable. Somali saves the axolotl lady, and the axolotl lady like runs away. And well, we think she runs away. I don't actually know what happens because, in our view, in our perspective that we take with the golem, golem faints, and we faint with him. Basically, it cuts to black, and then
Yep.
he wakes up in the middle of some fucking forest somewhere.
Sometime later, yeah.
Yeah.
We also didn't really discuss the first episode of these two because Brian and I discussed this off screen last week.
It was pretty simple
And-
though. Like the hunt starts for Somali, and that's
Yeah.
basically it. Nothing really. It's
But
a lot of-
specifically, we also get the background of why these people are hunting, which is basically once we interacted with humans and they killed one of us, and therefore we're going to kill you and eat you now. And again, I return to
I don't think
it's just fucking stupid fucking reason.
it is super fucking reason, but they do mention that it happened multiple times. It wasn't just once.
Oh, did they mention it
Yes.
multiple times?
They
Okay.
specifically did mention it happened multiple times. So like at the very least, they are apprehensive of humans and they're, not really trusting of them. I don't know if that
Right.
means go fucking eat them, but them not wanting to interact with Somali makes sense.
I mean, I could understand if they didn't want to interact with
right?
Somali,
Like I can understand that part,
but
eating.
I don't eat everything I don't want to interact with.
Like yeah, just because I hate someone doesn't mean I want to eat them.
Yeah. If we were to find a new species of aliens and then they were to attack us, I wouldn't try and go eat them in retribution.
Clap alien cheeks. Um, that's basically
yeah.
one of my like big pet peeves of this show is that like the reasoning behind the basically like the God, what's the word for it? Drama.
Genocide?
Not the genocide. Like past that is the anger between the humans and the beasts felt
Mhm.
just kind of dumb, and um, I couldn't buy into it.
Yeah.
Like everyone was just kind of being dumb, and I was like, this is kind of stupid. Like if there was maybe some misunderstandings, like just big wars, maybe some. It didn't go in far into like actual reasons why people don't like each other. It's just kind of a jumble of misunderstandings that go way out of hand, and they don't
Mhm.
really. Um, they don't. What's the word? I can't think of fucking words again. Um, they don't expand on the misunderstandings and why they're misunderstandings or why they're so bad. Like why the misunderstandings particularly bad. Like they didn't go into especially with like the prejudice between the two sides,
Yeah, for sure.
which could have really like added more to the show. And instead, they're like, yeah, they just gonna fucking hate each other,
Yep.
and now they're gonna eat them. Done.
It was very much just a backstory and a history and behaviors by the humans that I feel like were motivated by um, the society that I think the human civilizations were modeled after, because they were very much like a medieval era sort of society.
Very xenophobic. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they all had that, yeah, the xenophobic, you know, anything that's different than us and weird and has to get killed sort of mentality that, like, I feel like just because something showed up that looked different, if it spoke in a language that people could understand, doesn't necessarily mean that people would look at it and be like, we have to kill it right away. Like, there's no diplomacy at all. I could understand on like the small scale, but like nobody, no politician anywhere ever in any of those kingdoms was like, maybe we should try and like negotiate with these things. Like they clearly speak English or
Yeah.
whatever language they were
Let's.
speaking.
Yeah, like just how about we not do this, guys?
Yeah,
Because I think the biggest part was the motivation for the human characters to not like the beasts was my like biggest gripe.
yeah,
Because it was just they look fucking weird. I'm like, all right, like expand on that. Like maybe you were slighted by someone. Maybe um, there's like a bigger fear behind it. Instead, like they
uh,
never expand on it. They just say they hate them, and that's it.
yeah. We haven't seen them before, therefore we're going to kill them all. Like on the small scale, village to village, or like individual to individual, I can understand it. There's enough like fear and hysteria that like you run into something and it's weird and like different and you freak out and you're in the middle of the woods alone, and, stuff happens. You think it's like gonna eat you or something. I can understand it. But like on a larger scale of like towns, dukes, lords, barons, kings, all of that, like the political side of this, the answer is never like we have to go to war with it. It's like, all right, we've run into a different species that speaks English. Let's try diplomacy first. Like nobody starts with, okay, we found something different. Let's kill it.
Yeah, and
Like this is just
the one reason like I think this is a big issue is because this is like the driving factor for why Somalia is in danger.
mhm.
Because this side of like the world building kind of sucks, but everything else, like the way the world looks, the way everyone interacts with each other inside like the towns, all that stuff is great. It's just that one motivating factor for why this golem is taking care of the little girl.
Yeah.
Kind of just doesn't really work.
And even if we had seen like, they tried to do some diplomacy thing, but then the king was demanding too much, or like, whatever,
Yeah,
like stuff happened, and somehow like the king ended up spreading rumors among his citizens of like the monsters are going to try and come eat you all and kill you all and
like
rape your fathers and
yeah.
kill your mothers, sort of thing. Um, like if the human populace, like the kings and the dukes, had spread rumors among the people to like rile them up into a fury of like we have to kill or we have to kill the monsters, and that had started it, like then I would understand it. I would understand how it happened. I would understand why the humans hated the monsters and why they were doing it. And then on the other side, like, you know
it,
show me something as to why the monsters were like we have to eat the humans.
yeah, the eating part still doesn't make sense. Like them kind of being like saying like we have to go to war with them. That makes sense. This eating part kind of like they lose me on that part.
Yeah.
But yeah, with the whole things with the elected officials or not the elected officials, there's a little bit of real life to think through. With the kings and stuff, they're like that actually that I can buy into.
Hmm. But we don't
Anyway,
get any of that.
yeah,
Instead, we just sort of get the monsters want to eat the humans. But our golem went beast mode, saved Somali, and is now passed out. Wakes up the next some amount of time later. We don't actually know if it's the next day, but wakes up in a forest with Somali basically holding vigil at his floor side.
Yeah. And we,
There on the forest floor, we learn that basically his arm will not be growing back, but
it's
that
fucked
he
up.
is alive for now.
And we do not
And
know how long he will be alive for.
yeah, we see them as they stumble around the forest, and the golem sort of does a mental assessment of his life and how he's doing. And he says he's lost a decent portion of his outer flesh, and he's leaking some critical fluids, and he feels that his current physical capacity is only about 76% of its potential, and that his time remaining is unknown. And we don't know if it's unknown because he's past his due date and is now basically into negative time, or because he can no longer assess accurately how much time he has left because he's lost critical function and vital fluid, and therefore may have less time than he was allotted. So we don't actually know what amount of time he has left necessarily.
Yeah. Which plays into the climax of this episode. They
Yeah.
go into a town where there's a festival being held, um, and in standard fashion writing, because one of our characters is about to die or maybe about to die. The
Uh-huh.
festival is about reconnecting with your ancestors. It's a Day of the
Yes.
Dead, but in beast. Were they dogs? They were goats. They were goat people.
They were like go people, yeah.
Yeah. Basically, right in this festival, what happens is kids and everybody else will pick up these little flowers. They hold it up to the sky. If a wind can pick it up, and I think the blossom of the flower will start to like fly up, and it's magic shit, whatever.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a representation of reconnecting with your ancestors from the past. Basically, your mothers, your fathers, grandparents, and whatever.
Hmm.
Basically, it's bringing the theme of death, specifically death of a parent,
Yeah.
back into the story. I
And the
wonder why.
souls of the parents who, hang around us forever and come back to see us. Yeah. Because in the background of all of this is the golem having to decide basically with his unknown amount of time left, but certainly not very much. He has to decide, what is he going to do with Somali? Is he
Right.
going to leave her with her two gay dads, or is he going to try and basically find some other way, do something else?
Hmm. And right
And
after,
so,
uh, Somali kind of gets her attention gets put into basically this little show that they're holding where these monsters, blowing fire, spinning discs and shit. It's the standard cool little festival stuff. She gets on top of
yeah.
the Oni to kind of have a look, and the golem's like, "Cool, perfect. I'm gonna go out for some cigarettes," and then he
This is my
leaves.
moment. Yeah.
Because at this moment he makes a decision that it's better for Hanako to like just uh,
Hanako?
not Hanako, fuck Somali. Got it.
Yep. There we go.
He's just trying to like rip off the bandage like right away. He's gonna die. He's just fucking bailing.
Yeah.
Um, and Somali is very upset after turning around and seeing that her dad's not there. So she goes off and runs to her dad. And this is kind of like kind of a mirroring what happened in the first episode, where she runs off to go play with the cat, and fucking what's his face, this golem has to look for her. And now it's kind of the opposite of that. He goes off to the woods and is able to find him after kind of tripping on a big ass log because she's a kid.
I mean, she doesn't trip on a big ass log. She climbs up to the
She
top of
climbs
the
up.
big ass log and then steps off it and
Face
skins her knee.
face plants again.
Yeah.
Uh, and then she has a moment with the golem where she's telling him, you're my dad. I don't want him to go. Are you mad at me? Like, is it something I did? And the golem's like, no, it's not. He
Yeah.
never really tells her like, listen, I'm dying. Because that's I guess not really the point. But eventually he tells Somali, I was going to say Hanako again, that, that he truly does love her. He feels emotion. He does want to stay and be her dad for as long as he can.
Yeah.
He doesn't really tell Somali that, that so long as I can isn't that long, but, they'll get to that eventually. They'll cross that bridge when they get there.
Yeah. Does he not mention that he's dying?
I don't think he does. He does say
Alright.
like, "I'm going to stay as your dad for as long as I can."
I mean, he definitely doesn't mention it then. I thought before that he mentioned
Oh, he
that he
does
had
say
to.
like no. And this is I think a voiceover. I can't really tell because
Oh, okay.
his mouth doesn't move.
Yeah, exactly.
But he says like I'll be with you forever, even as a soul, bringing
Yeah.
back to the whole. Because there were, I guess I kind of skipped over it, but there is a moment where the golem and his grandparent kind of debate about whether souls exist or not, and the golem's like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. You're fucking stupid, old man. Get out of here.
R-
And the old man's like,
Right.
dude, just chill out. And he chills out and then believes in souls.
Yeah.
Mostly because he wants Somali to, he wants to protect Somali. And that's the end. Go read the manga.
Yeah. Well, we do have a little bit of a not fully after credits scene, but an
Oh,
after credits animated moment of Somali sometime later in a different outfit, as we see the two Onis and the golem with his one missing arm still alive sometime later, as they sort of watch her run to the top of a hill and look back at them. So, I mean, assuming it is a canon scene of this is a moment they had as a family, he's alive sometime later. We don't know how long it's been, so it's hard to say how long he's going to be alive for.
I think
But
the
it's
author wrote themselves into a corner,
yep.
and this is his way of just keeping him alive.
That's what I said
Yeah,
all the way back in the first episode of the season. Was this whole give it a number of days thing is not always a great decision.
it
Because you
was
end up with
for
situations like this.
the crocodile one,
It's true, it was
but in the crocodile one, they killed him off.
off scene and somewhat shockingly. Despite the fact that you knew it was coming, it was still a moment of you just sort of see the phone lying in the street and it's assumed he got hit by a car. Yeah. Um.
Anyways, um, yeah, Golem's still alive. We don't know for how long.
Mhm.
We might get into like why he's staying alive longer later on. I did see a theory floating around that with each passing day, because he's like taking on this role as a father of to Somali, he's becoming less of a golem.
Uh-huh.
So the time limit becomes less of a thing for him.
See, I saw another one. It's sort of similar but a little bit different. It was that basically the 1,000 years thing is a self-realizing prophecy
Oh,
in that
yes,
like golems have this innate sense of I'm alive for 1,000 years and therefore at 1,000 years
I
find a
must.
way to die.
Yeah,
And the golem, and this is a few things I've ever seen, is he always says I don't have emotions, and in this final scene with Somali, he finally admits I do have emotions. I love you. You're my daughter. I want to be with you forever. And this is his way of basically rejecting the innate of this is the way a golem is. Golems don't have emotions. Golems die after 1,000 years. And he's finally becoming something more than just a golem with no emotions. And so therefore he's trying to override that innate self-realizing prophecy of you'll be alive for 1,000 years and instead becoming more human
yes.
and potentially going to have like a natural death sometime later.
Okay, I think I also read that theory too. I like that one the most.
I do
Pretty
too.
good. But
Because it connects to like the whole realizing his humanity is
yeah,
the way of here to phrase, but he's not exactly human, so
it fits into the theme of his story.
yeah, for sure. But it is certainly a bit of a punt by the author, the whole time left
Yeah.
unknown thing.
Uh,
Certainly one of those moments of like he wrote himself down to like I've got 2 months left or whatever it was at the
oh
end.
fuck! I shouldn't have given up those 200 days at the start of the manga.
Yeah. So it was definitely a moment for the author to sort of give himself a little bit of leeway in order to make a decision of what he was going to do. But I can understand why he had to. It was something I predicted at the beginning, but it is certainly a problem that I'm not surprised that he had. Running into basically 600 days wasn't enough to tell a good enough story that he was ready to end it.
And
So,
so we come to it. Would you recommend
yeah.
Somali and the Guardian Spirit? Forest Spirit. Guardian
Um,
Spirit? Whatever.
I would recommend it more as a niche thing. It's a very emotional show, and it's a show that, and I talked about this before, it's episode to episode and week to week, it just never felt like anything changed. We never approached human civilization or knew that we were getting any closer. I mean, other than it was very much built on the emotional foundation of the golem and Somali.
It's
You
more of a
couldn't be
character
there for,
study.
yeah,
Okay.
you couldn't be there for the journey. You had to be there for the characters and like the emotional struggles that they dealt with and their emotional problems and like connections to each other and that sort of thing. And
I
so I
would
would
argue that that is the journey. We're not we're not here for the goal. We're here
Mhm.
for the journey, which is consists of the emotional aspects of the two characters.
I mean, you're right in that it is the journey is the emotional aspect of these two characters in this show. You are right about that. I cannot argue that. But more what I'm saying is like there is not a lot of other shows have like a goal in the sense of like some plot thing that the
Right.
characters are trying to reach. And it's not a concept in this show. There's not like a
Well, it
plot thing the characters are going to reach or we see progress towards.
okay. Yeah, I would agree with the progress towards. There is a goal, and that's to find human parents. Although at this
Yeah.
point, I think it might end up being that he no longer wants to find human parents because he's now becoming her father. So
I mean,
that
we'll
might start
see. I mean,
changing.
he still is possibly dying.
Yeah, that's true. Right. He said as long for as long as he lives. So that makes forget what I said. But there is a goal. We just never
Yeah,
really work towards it.
make progress towards
Yeah.
it. So it is very much a show that I mean, its whole point in existence, as you said, is built on the emotional journey of these two characters, but it is in that way you have to be willing to watch a show that has no outer progress towards the spoken goal, but instead is the character study and connect to the characters themselves. So it's a very emotion heavy show. And at times a very sad show. I mean, despite the fact that it has an ostensibly good ending, it was still a sad ending. Of
He's
like you
still
kind
gonna
of
die.
acknowledge, yeah, he's still going to die. We don't know that he's necessarily alive. My theory of him bucking the trend of golem life and maybe living more than 1,000 years may not be true. We don't know how much time he had left at the end. He may have, a month, 2 months, 5 weeks. We have no idea how many days he has left there at the end. So it's hard to say whether or not the golem is going to die soon and what's going to happen without reading the manga.
Yeah.
But overall, I would recommend it as a show to people who like very emotion heavy, character driven shows.
I'd recommend it as a slow burner. Not something to watch when you're trying to like chill out. Well, you could watch it when you're trying to chill out, but like there's still those very emotional aspects where shit kind of gets kind of heavy,
Uh huh.
and you might not be looking for that in a show where you just want to chill out. I don't know. I
I
would
mean,
say
it's a
it's
complicated show to put into words of how I would recommend it.
right. Yeah,
So I wouldn't
I
say
do.
fully a general recommendation.
I do want to recommend it. I just don't know to who.
Yeah,
I guess yeah,
it's certainly not a bad show. It takes a certain type to like it for sure. I
yeah.
just don't know how to describe the type who would like it.
I guess if like maybe a slow burner sad show
Hmm.
or ups and downs.
Yeah, a sad show that makes you feel alive.
Maybe if you like
March comes in like a lion. Season 1 comes to mind.
maybe if you like fantasy and want something a bit like not grounded but more subdue. Because I feel like the
Hmm.
fantasy aspects are really cool. Like you get a bunch of cool monsters, a bunch of cool areas and settings, um, and like it's not action heavy. So if you don't want action, this is the perfect one to show or to watch.
Uh
Um, I guess people who like datame, right, where like it's just
huh.
basically it's a character becoming a dad.
Right.
If you like those, you might like this one too.
Uh huh.
It's yeah, it is an awkward show to recommend, but I would still recommend it. Um, it looked really nice.
Nice.
Like all like the watercolors in the backgrounds look great. For the most part, the show I thought looked pretty good. It doesn't move that well, mostly because there's not a lot of action.
Uh huh.
So pieces where there's a lot of movement, they kind of cut the corners. There's multiple
Yeah.
montages where it's just still shots.
Hmm.
Um,
To show the depiction of things progressing.
things progressing and
Usually
like
it's not important things. It's sort of like some walk somewhere
yeah,
or some like event or
like
spectacle that
they're
they're watching
searching for
will get,
something.
yeah, it'll get a montage. But it is certainly a show that it's just very placid in the way that it moves. Lethargic almost. because it sort of carries itself heavily between scenes and moments. In the way of like it takes time getting there and it's not very concerned as a show about like the plot or the progress. It is the characters and their feelings that sort of govern the scenes.
Yeah,
And the
despite
things happen around them.
right, despite the fact that there's basically a time limit to for the goal, I never felt constricted by the time limit.
Uh-huh.
Like I wasn't thinking when I was watching the show. I never thought to myself like, oh, we only have X days to find humans. I more thought we only have X days for the golem to stay with Somali,
Right.
and you
Yeah.
kind of have to view the show in that way.
Because the reaching the humans thing always felt like a goal. It was such an abstract concept, despite having a very real and definable like end thing.
Right?
It's
Like
not
yeah,
like
we
it's not
we
like
get the humans and we've got the goal. Bim bam
yeah,
boom.
it's not like the One Piece in One Piece where we don't know what form it's going to take. We just have to find the thing that is the One Piece, and then we'll have when we found it, sort of thing. And like we don't know what it is, we'll get there eventually, sort of thing. With this, we have a definable thing. We found humans. There's the goal. That's it. We know what the humans look like. We know, we've got to get to them. It's a show that at the same time, like, despite knowing what its goal is,
They don't know where it is. Like they're aimless right
yeah.
now. They have ideas of where they could go, but time and time again, like it's never the right place.
hmm And our awareness of like time and situations and the things in the plot and everything have nothing to do with reaching the goal or anything to do with the goal. It's all to do with Somali and the Golem of how much time do Somali and the Golem have together?
Yeah.
How is their relationship? How do they see each other? How are they, working together or working to make their father-daughter thing better? Like it's all built around those two and their connection to each other and not influenced by the larger goal of find humans.
Well put. Yeah, that's basically it.
Oh,
But yeah, it's definitely a hard one to recommend. Not because I didn't like it, but because I just don't know who should be watching it.
yeah.
But I
Oh,
really enjoyed
excuse me.
it. You're excused.
I did enjoy it as well. Despite complaining every once in a while about some things, it was a good show. I don't know, like you described, it's certainly a like secondary show in the way of like I don't know if I could binge watch it. I couldn't have it as like
I don't
the
think I could.
show that I'm watching at any given time, but it's certainly the show that I keep on in the background of like, I watch some other stuff, I watch a couple other shows, and then, maybe I watch an episode of Somali, sort of thing.
Yeah, I definitely couldn't watch this. Like, just I couldn't binge it.
Yeah.
Mostly because back to the toilet by Hangaku part thing. Nothing really gripped me. Like, nothing made me like left me wanting more episodes.
hmm
Um, actively wanting more episodes is what
Right.
I mean to say.
Yeah.
But overall, yeah, that's Somali and the Force Spirit. Uh, I guess going back to all three, which you think had the best opening?
Oh, wish I had the best opening. Oh, that's a good question. Um, hmm.
At least for me, it was Azoken, and even then, I didn't really like it that much.
I
I
would say
did.
Hanako.
I didn't like Hanako's opening. It just didn't get to me. I kind of didn't like it. And then Somali's also was like, it's alright.
So Somali's was fairly generic.
Yeah, it was just standard kind of like somber fantasy stuff.
No Rest for the Wicked. And I just could never like every time I heard it, I just wanted it to be No Rest for the Wicked, and the fact that it wasn't, or not upset, but like it annoyed me. And
Right.
so like I just I could never like Aizoken's opening because it was too much like Cage the Elephant for me.
Okay.
And so I guess by default I would say Hanako
For
because it
me,
at least had more character than Somali.
the Hanukkah opening, I heard it once and I was like, God, this is annoying. I thought it was an annoying song.
I mean that's
But
fair.
on the flip side, I love its ending.
Its ending is very good.
Both the song and the visuals, I thought were fantastic. Like they use, I think they use red or like a dark red, or was it a black? I think it was black and then a dark red later on.
Uh-huh.
But it just looks so real. It just looks so nice. I also really like the ending for Azoken too. It was really a kind of cool way to chill out after the episodes. And Somali, like I didn't really like the ending too. It was also kind of like kind of mediocre.
Yeah, very generic.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right. Something I forgot to mention. The voice acting for Somali in this episode I thought was fantastic. Because, like, the way she would crack her voice as she was crying almost broke my heart.
Oh yeah,
That was just tough to
Smalley.
listen
The
to.
voice actress is playing of an abandoned child. Basically, that
Yes.
was crushing.
Anyways, back to something a bit happier. Um, I don't know the next topic. Fuck it. What do you want to sell out to? Unless you have something
Um,
that you want to talk about.
no, I don't think so.
I guess that's it. Sell out time.
All right. Well, as this season comes to a close, I guess that I will sell out to what do I want to sell out to? Hawaii as a state that doesn't acknowledge daylight savings time, I guess, and Arizona. I think they don't acknowledge it either.
They don't. Oh, that's interesting.
I don't think so. So I guess I'll sell out to two states that don't acknowledge daylight savings time. Um, or Dr. Anthony Fauci, who recently, I guess I will sell it to him actually. I'll sell it to Dr. Anthony Fauci, who has recently gone on a pretty extensive media tour as he tries to spread some facts about coronavirus in these very politicized times of the modern plague, as I've been calling it.
Oh, well, it is a modern
Um,
plague.
I mean, it kind of is less of a death toll than the plague, but an infection rate that's sort of fairly high. But anyways, so shout out to Dr. Anthony Fauci for basically doing the most that he can in terms of trying to spread awareness among people of all ages as to what exactly it is to have coronavirus and what the dangers are and how to avoid contracting it, because there are a lot of people who aren't making great decisions to not infect more people. So really overall, I appreciate the work of Dr. Anthony Fauci in trying to limit the spread of this disease as much as possible. So I want to give him a shout out and say thank you for everything that you do, and just being a solid researcher and a solid doctor.
Stay safe,
I think,
stay home.
yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for somebody who would do that. So shout out to you, Dr. Anthony Fauci.
Well, that. God damn. Now I. Now my salad seems cheap. I'm gonna sell out to the daily lives of high school girls. It had an anime adaptation a couple of months ago, and I read the manga, and it's pretty fucking funny. All the girls are like absolute fucking goons. Man, fuck you. God damn it, Nick.
I'm sorry.
You gotta be serious and
We-
shit.
I'm sorry I couldn't come up with some fucking meme sellout this week. 2 weeks ago I sold out to Girl Scout cookies.
Actually, no. Fuck that. No, fuck that. I'm gonna sell it to Zombie 100. Mostly because it has something to do with infections.
Okay, pretty sure you sold out to that, but okay.
Have I? Oh, I think I did. But I didn't sell out to it this month, which is the important part.
Okay.
I'll sell out to it again. Despite the fact that this latest chapter introduced one of the worst fucking villains in the entire fucking room. But anyways. Zombie 100. Go read it. It's fucking fantastic. It is about the zombie plague and plagues, but it's about finding the happiness within it.
Oh, okay.
Hang out with your family, reconnect with people, virtually, of course. Play with your dog. And hope to dear God that, you're able to work from home or even work at all, because things suck and no one's fucking employed right now.
And it's true.
Anyways, yeah. Shit sucks.
Sometimes you have to find your own joy and make your bliss.